Surya Saha, the author of The Digital Choices, and you're listening to the Insurtech Story podcast, the platform to spread knowledge on insurance innovation, digital disruptions, and entrepreneurship. Our website, insurtechstory.com, and we are available on Spotify, Apple, and Google. Today, we will discuss on the topic Navigating Insurtech, how digital will transform insurance in Asia Pacific. And we have a very special guest. And without any further ado, let me welcome on board Mr. Vinay Surana, who is the Asia Pacific Chief Executive Officer at Allianz Partners. Vinay is based in Sydney, Australia, and he leads the Asia Pacific business with responsibility for Australasia, China, Japan, India, and Southeast Asia. Vinay brings over 20 years of global experience in the financial services industry to his current role. Prior to joining Allianz, Vinay held the position of Senior Vice President, Head of Individual Personal Insurance for Asia Pacific within AIG, where he spent more than 13 years in various senior executive positions across numerous markets within Asia, the United States, and Australasia. Vinay is a seasoned leader with significant international experience and strong track record of building scale and profitable business, and he has in-depth technical expertise in insurance and underwriting, strategic planning, reinsurance, risk management, partnership development, and digital enablement, as well as insurtech, the most important topic of today. So, Vinay, welcome on board. I'm truly excited to have you for the show.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk to you and through to your audience. It's an honor to have an opportunity to join this platform and have a chance to share some of my thoughts with respect to what I would consider as the real relevant and the hot topic, which is how would digital and insurtech transform the value chain for the insurance industry, but also more importantly for the customers. So I think I'm really excited to have this opportunity to have a conversation.
It's my honor to have you, Vinay, and yeah, very spot on. It's some of the most hottest and relevant at this point of time. Like many sectors of the economy, the insurance industry is affected by increasing technological innovation and disruption in the digital era. And technology in insurance, or what we see as insurtech, is experiencing rapid growth, increasing investments, technology enablement to a greater influence, and in some cases, transforming the entire industry as a whole, which once we consider to be a very conservative, traditionally driven industry. Moving the shift a bit toward the Asia Pacific, this region is particularly experiencing massive technological advancement in the insurance industry. The extremely high expectations of consumers, if we see in the region, for seamless and personalized digital experiences, inspiring a great deal of innovation. Especially, it is being pulled by you know, the young generation uh, of the society. Um, for example, firms in mainland China and other markets are experimenting widely, you know, and delivering impressive results with new products, distribution models, and of course, new technologies. The top performers are kind of both capitalizing on near term opportunities and establishing a strong foundation for a long term success. And in a similar way, the performance is primarily driven by nations like China, and some positive performance is also coming from South Korea, right? So, but however, some mature market in the region, such as Japan, is still, I would say, kind of struggling due to their rising population age and consumer expectation shift. But on the other hand, penetration rate in China increased from 1.4% in 2013 to 1.9% in 2018. Non-life insurance is showing rapid growth compared to life insurance in the Asia Pacific region, especially in places like India and others. The gross written premium for life insurance increased by a CAGR of 4%, whereas non-life insurance increased by 7.5% over the same period. So that's a huge difference that's showing up between non-life and the life segment of the insurance industry. So with this, my first question goes to you. is where do you see the opportunities of insurtech in such a circumstance in the insurance industry in the APAC region?
Surya, I think I wholeheartedly agree with what you said. Asia is the center of universe when you think about growth, but not only growth in terms of economic activity, but if recently, I would say in last decade, when you look at the activity in terms of technology adoption in terms of innovation, certainly, we are seeing a shift from west to east with respect to adoption of technology, the willingness of consumers to embrace new trends, and also for the industry as a whole to try and lead that innovation, right? To answer your question with respect to where do we see opportunities in insurtech in the insurance industry? Look, if you look at insurance industry, right, and you kind of highlighted some of the numbers around the growth in the non-life and the life premiums and how non-life growth is almost twice that of life in Asia over the same comparable period. The key here is I think insurtech industry can go a long way in my opinion, in solving two or three key issues. Number one, accessibility of insurance. I think that insurtech industry can go a long way in helping make sure that we can make insurance available to usually the segments of the market which we would in the past call as micro consumer segments which were uninsurable or which could not be insured in an economically viable manner. And I'll talk how it can happen, but I see that there is a big opportunity there. There's also an opportunity for insurtech to help reduce the protection gap by helping grow the pool of what we call in insurance as insurable risks, right? And also making sure that the insurance is accessible at the right price point through a right channel to a customer, right? And which is very, very important to reduce the protection gap. And when I think about from a pure insurance industry perspective and the technical application, I think insurtech can go a long way in helping us really transform the industry, which has long been seen as a much more traditional industry. So when I think about the actual specific applications, I can talk about a lot of work right now is going on within the industry with respect to using AI and machine learning to develop predictive analytics that can help better predict the outcomes on emerging risks, whether it is supply chain risks, whether it's climate change and the impact of that. So a lot of work is going in that space, and I think insurtech is in the driver's seat in helping insurance industry transform. The second area where we can see a concrete application is around advanced data capture and how that can be used to optimize underwriting models for sharper pricing. It goes back to my comment about actually growing the pool of what we call it as insurable risk. If as an insurer or as an insurance industry, if we can use better data to capture the risks and can estimate or can create greater predictability on outcomes on the risk, then we can start insuring risks which in the past would have traditionally been classified as uninsurable because the data was not there or we didn't have the model to analyze the risk. The third area is use of machine learning to enhance claims efficiency. At the end of the day, as an insurer, remediating or making sure that we make good a client, whether it's an individual or a company at the time of loss, is very, very important. And in there, I think machine learning has a significant application in terms of enhancing our claims efficiency. Now, in terms of pure product, we have seen an advent of usage-based insurance, and I think insurtech has a huge role to play in that space in helping make sure that we can look at the traditional insurance and insurance models and bring in the usage-based component on the front end of the value chain, right? And last but not least, I think when we think about application, the digital solutions can be used extensively in providing preventive and assistive services. So insurance has long traditionally been always focused on remediation. So if you have a loss, we will pay the claim, we will pay the claim fairly, and we will pay the claim quickly. To me, that is table stakes. But in the past, insurers could not get holistically involved in preventive and assistive services because of the lack of technology or the data. But I think with insurtech and the use of AI and ML, we can really move the value chain for the insurance industry as a whole from just remediation to an assistance and prevention. So these would be some of the examples from my perspective where insurtech industry or insurtech has a big role to play in moving insurance industry forward.
No, absolutely. No, you have mentioned a very, very important point there. That is how exactly insurance with the help of emerging technology can fill up the protection gap that exists. So in many parts of the world, including India, we talk about banked and unbanked. But there is also another aspect of looking at the insured or uninsured. And in special occasions like natural catastrophes and the current world crisis, how since on the protection gap aspect, Insurtech has a lots to play, especially when such huge amount of technological advancements are happening, and the uninsured, and especially a preconceived notion that goes against getting insurance policy, perhaps, and from the life side. Uh, you know, how do you see this shaping up? When we say reducing of the protection gap and the advancement of technology in insurance.
Yeah, so look, Surya, again, to me, it's the holy grail of the future when you think about insurance, right? If we think about protection gap, as you touched on it, and as I mentioned in my previous response as well, the reason why there is a protection gap is because traditionally there have been strong prohibitors in terms of being able to provide uh, products and services at a right price point in a manner that can be consumed, right? Especially if you think about micro insurance opportunities. So to answer your question, how can insurtech or technology help reduce the protection gap? I think I'll try and answer that in two or three key ways. Number one, I think insurtech can help a lot in raising awareness of the need for insurance, right? And I think this is where tools like gamification, which has been introduced in some places where as a consumer you probably do not know how much insurance do you need, what kind of insurance do you need, right? And this is where creating an engaging platform where people can go in and using gamification as a way for them to assess what are the real life risks that they face, right? Both on the life side as well as from a asset protection perspective, right? Which is where general insurance comes in, and helping them assess, right, what are their insurance needs and raising awareness to buy that insurance. So I think one is raising awareness. This is where technology can be a big enabler. Second is accessibility. In the past, because insurance was traditionally distributed through a brick and mortar channel setup, whether it was banca channel, whether it is an agent channel or a broker channel, the cost of distribution was significantly higher. This is where micro insurance did not make economic sense because the cost of distributing the product far exceeded the price you could charge. But with the use of technology now, you can actually increase the accessibility from a distribution perspective, where digitally products can be, and especially with mobile, you can actually buy and consume products which have very small ticket size, right, and which can be consumed on a usage base. And the third thing is ability to underwrite and assess risk, right? So for an insurance company in the past, because there was data limitation, and there was limitation in terms of both data capture but ability to process data, right? Certain segments were considered as non-insurable. For example, right, if you live in a floodplain, right, flood insurance probably cannot be provided to you, right? But now with the availability of the data, but more importantly with AI and machine learning, right, and deep learning, what we are able to do is refine and process that large volume of data, and therefore refine the risk segmentation to a point where we call it as a let long level, where if you are in a floodplain, all risk within a floodplain plane may not be uninsurable, right? So if you have the right risk mitigating features built into the risk, for example, I'm talking about a home or a business setup, right? Or if you even within a larger zip code or postcode in India, as you call it, there might be opportunities, or there might be addresses which are located at a certain elevation, which would make those risks insurable. But in the past, we could not actually use the data, and the power of processing was not there for us to be able process the data to that kind of granularity. But now with AI, we are able to pinpoint the data to a let long level, and then decide whether a particular risk is insurable or not, and then price that risk properly. So again, going back to it, is the role of insurtech or technology in reducing protection gap comes down to ability to raise awareness and therefore create consumer demand. Number two, accessibility through channels which are really cost effective. And third, using data to be able to underwrite the risks and being able to price the risk at a micro level, which really widens the pool of insurable risk versus uninsurable risk.
Right, absolutely. So a huge potential and a huge opportunity there for the insurance players as well as the consumers of insurance products. Thank you, Vinay, for your thoughts there. Moving on to our next point of discussion. Insurtech is a steadily growing sector, as we discussed, within the large tech, startup, and fintech spheres. And when things like COVID-19 made landfall, catalyzed cross-industrial digitization and accelerated the boom. Now, this growth has been marked by the rise of many insurtech giants across the globe, with some crossing, valuations above even $1 billion. So, what's your views on such an ecosystem?
Look, the future, and not only for insurance, but for all services, is the consumers as well as providers of service are more moving into this ecosystem and a platform setup, right? Where
Right,
you consume services in an ecosystem setup rather than consuming on a transactional basis one-on-one, right? And if you look at the last McKinsey report, right, and there were predictions that there will be 7 broad ecosystems or platforms that will evolve, right? Um, each more than $1 trillion in size, right? And that will become the core of the commerce, let's call it this way, right? Both for product as well as service industry, right? So I think clearly the future of insurance is definitely in that ecosystem and platform setup. And as Allianz partners, we are actually changing our entire business model to be driven through an ecosystem, right? And I'll touch on it later when I talk about Allianz partners in specific. But when to your point about the rise of insurtech and the valuation topic that you touched upon, when I look at insurtech and see how the insurtech growth is fueled, to me there are 3 specific models that have clearly emerged in last 5 years, and certainly in last couple of years we have seen accelerated emergence in those 3 different models. Number one, the first model is the model where insurance industry, or call it the traditional players, more play the role of being a capital provider, right? And I would give you an example there. Allianz X, which is an Allianz Group company, as you might have seen, is a very active entity in a space where Allianz X is an active investor as a venture capitalist into number of startups, right? And they are not only just insurtech startups, they are fintech startups, they are regtech startups, they are even health tech startups, where Allianz X provides the capital, provides the funding that is required by these insurtech to really mature their business model, right? And really bring their technology to market and really make that technology economically viable and commercially viable. So that's one model. The other model, which is quite prevalent, is the model where a traditional player or an insurer basically incubates the insurtech capability in-house. And a good example, probably the prime example of that is Ping An, right? Where Ping An has consistently invested 1% of their revenue, or about 10% of their profit each year in past 10 years on R&D. And what they have done is they have created an ecosystem, in-house ecosystem, where they are focused on building, insurtech and fintech capabilities around their core strategy, right? And their core strategy being the strategy focus on financial asset protection and healthcare, right? And they have, within their ecosystem, they've got a couple of unicorns which are valued, far beyond $1 billion, right? And here their model is that they not only provide their capital, which is obviously key, but they also provide the organizational capabilities, the access to the customer, the insight that is required, and the management and project governance support. So I think this is an end-to-end model where you're not an independent sandbox, but you provide a sandbox kind of setup within the organization to ensure that they can have a captive setup for the growth of insurtech, right? And then the third model, which is more, I call it as a franchise model. Here, as a traditional player, what you do is you provide, most insurtech have great ideas, right? As we know, right? And these entrepreneurs have some brilliant ideas which are aimed at solving real life problems for our customer. The challenge that they have is Either they don't have access to the funding or the right level of funding that is required, or they don't have access to the let's call it the governance structure and the setup that is required to mature these ideas, or they struggle in having access to a customer base which can really help them grow their business, right? So, in that franchise setup, different players have taken different role depending on what their strength is in order to solve one or all of these three paradigms that the insured, or the challenges, right, that the Insurtech faces, right? A good example of that would be Xiaomi. Now, Xiaomi doesn't come from insurance industry, right? But they are mainly an OEM, which is focused on, originally their business model is primarily focused on mobile device manufacturing. But what Xiaomi has done over a period of time is created an ecosystem or a sandbox where they allow a number of startups to have access to structured project governance, structured setup, right? And more importantly, an access to the Xiaomi Mi Fans customer base, which is huge, right? And by doing so, they allow these insurtechs or startups, let's call it this way, to plug and play. Whether that, again, insurtech, fintech startup, to plug and play, test their ideas, and get the benefit of being able to scale those ideas much quickly rather than going them on their own, right? And they take a small equity ownership in these tech startups once they've gone through the validation process, right? And they let the entrepreneurs have majority of ownership so that they have the drive and they can really focus on delivering what they want to deliver through their startup entity. So again, it comes down to, from my perspective, these are the three models which are emerging, which is pure play capital provider, a captive setup, and a franchise setup in terms of helping grow or helping the growth of insurtech and fintech providers across the globe.
Right. This is really fascinating. Being in the insurance industry. So essentially, we are looking something beyond insurance. So we are looking at areas where, as an organization, and in the digital era, the company and the team can add value to. And you spoke about health tech, rec tech, fintech, apart from the insurtech space, and how various distribution models are actually shaping up there. So future is very promising and very exciting. So yeah,
Indeed.
great, amazing things. Vinay, just moving on to our third point of discussion. Ensuring industry is thriving through groundbreaking innovations, and that is increasingly focusing to solve some real problems, from motor insurance to climate change to sustainability issues. Now, looking at leaders like Allianz Partners, the company has been working in many initiatives, one of which is the partnership with Irish insurtech called Blink, and the introduction of automotive innovation center that focuses on future mobility, including telematics and engineering. Could you tell us more on some unique Alliance Partners key initiatives in the insurtech space?
Sure. So look, maybe Surya, for your audience, maybe let me describe a little bit the Alliance Partners model, and then I'll come to the specifics
Yeah.
that you asked, right?
Yes.
Alliance
Yes.
Partners is a very unique entity, right? And I've been here for now 18 months. And one of the things that really attracted me to Alliance Partners compared to a traditional insurance player is Alliance Partners, even though we are part of Alliance Group, we are not a traditional insurer. Alliance Partners sits at the crossroad of technology and services and insurance product. And that is what is very unique about the business model of Alliance Partners, right? So Alliance Partners is an assistance company, right? At the same time, we provide specialty insurance. And at the same time, we are the technology enabler, right? And we work both in-house as well as with third parties to really look at emerging trends and how we can co-invest with these partners, right, in the technology space to bring the solutions to the market, right? So that's our core business model. And as you kind of touched on a couple of examples with respect to Blink and the Automotive Innovation Center, our business model in Alliance Partners is mainly, and I touched on it earlier a little bit, right? Our business model in Alliance Partners is now clearly focused around four core ecosystems, right? So rather than being a product-led company, we are an ecosystem-led company, right? And our focus is around core four ecosystems, as we call it. Number one is mobility. The second is travel and leisure. third being health and wellness, and fourth is lifestyle solutions. We call it easy living. And everything we do within the organization is built around these four ecosystems. And how do we play the role either as an orchestrator or a participant in this ecosystem? Now, our preference in most cases is to be an orchestrator, because we think we have a unique position where we can bring the value in terms of being an orchestrator. But in some cases, we might even choose to play as a participant, provided we can really add some tangible value to an ecosystem that is already orchestrated by a third party. So that's one which is very, very important to understand, because we are an ecosystem-led company, everything we do is in and around these four ecosystems. It's very much focused on bringing value to the customer. What we really want to do is to create segment-led, customer segment-led, customer insight-driven, and digitally enabled solution which fits into one of these four ecosystems. So to answer your question with respect to specific work in terms of innovation, let me give you a couple of examples, right? So in terms of mobility, right, we have been collaborating very, very closely with both what I call it as traditional mobility players, your OEMs. At the same time, we are also collaborating very closely with new mobility players and micro mobility players like Bolt, Lime, and others, where we are looking at end-to-end mobility, right, from point-to-point mobility rather than just a particular part of that journey for a customer. So if you leave your home to get to your work, to get to work and come back, right? We look at mobility end to end. That could mean that you would probably take a micro mobility or a e-scooter from your home to the train station. And then from train station, you get into a public transport or a train. Then you get to your work and you might be using an Uber or an Ola on the other side. And then how do you map your journey back, right? And how do we look at this end-to-end mobility solution for you and be a provider of meaningful solution in that space? So in that automotive or mobility space, we have invested heavily with all of these different players, be it with micro mobility players, be it with OEMs, the car manufacturers, or be it with service providers, to really co-create solutions, right, that can help bring or help really grow this mobility space in a meaningful manner. So let me talk to you about two examples, right? So we touched briefly on the usage-based insurance. In Netherlands, we have launched a UBI product with BMW, and it is called UBI PYD, right? So it's basically pay as you drive proposition, which is being launched with BMW and Mini, where we use the BMW car data from their platform, right? And it is this data that is used to actually build a proposition where a customer can today, if they buy a car from a dealership or an online, they can opt in for a pay-as-you-drive insurance solution rather than a traditional insurance, right, which is an annual policy, right? And if they select this, they have an option similar to your mobile top-up packages. They can buy packages, right? So you can buy a package of 100 kilometers, you can buy a package of 500 kilometers, you can buy a package of 1,000 kilometers. And if you exhaust that, you can buy top-ups, right? And because we are directly linked to the BMW Mini Connected Drive solution at the back end, right, there is a real-time exchange of data, right? And then depending on your utilization, we would send you an alert, right? And you receive, you have a dashboard where you can see your utilization. You get a monthly email update from us, right? And the beauty is, right, you only pay if you drive, and if you do not drive, you don't pay at all, right? So if you pay the deposit premium, let's call it that way, that deposit premium is sitting with us as a deposit, and as you use it, right, you exhaust it, and then you can top up. As you are getting to that 80% level utilization, you will get an alert from us, and at a click of a button, you can top up your premium, right? So that's pay as you drive. And now taking that further, it is not only about pay as you drive, but also pay how you drive. So because most cars are fitted with telematic solutions, right? Now we reward customers depending on their speeding or their braking or their cornering, because we have the data on all of these driving behaviors. If you drive well, we actually reward you. That could be you get a free top up of 300 kilometers because your driving score was above certain threshold, right? So we are incenting the customer to do the right thing, right, and instantly rewarding them for doing the right thing, right? And this by doing this, we are creating a safe community, right? And we are creating safer roads for our senior citizens, for our kids, and for other drivers with whom we share the roads. So this is a good example where you are partnering with an OEM to really create a solution which is very intuitive, which is available on demand, which is pay as you go, but also create the right incentive for the customers to really do the right things when they are driving their vehicle.
I mean, that's some significant, innovations there, and how. I mean, I would say it's kind of a evangelizing the future of insurance. You're not only bringing up new things on board and what would be the expectations of the customers tomorrow, but also going ahead and doing a social contribution in towards the behavioral aspect of consumers, and through these incentive schemes. I mean, it's excellent. I mean, such innovations are actually the need of the hour, and we are seeing and witnessing such things in a very traditionally functioned industry which is years old. I mean, that's the most fascinating aspect of insurance. Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, indeed, Surya. And, I think if I may give you one more example there, right? You
Yes,
talked about
yes.
motor, and obviously motor is great, but, the other core area for us is travel. We are the world's largest travel insurer, and you can imagine going through the COVID. It was not a very pleasant time to be in COVID, where the entire travel
Right.
industry was on a standstill. Right? While we have been on a journey of transforming our travel value proposition and moving from a passive travel insurance solution to what we call it as a proactive insurance solution, but pandemic gave us an opportunity to really rethink our business inside out, and accelerate the transformation that we were looking to do. Right, as you can imagine, in a business that is running, it's not easy to stop everything, right, to transform. But the pause during the pandemic, which we had, gave us an opportunity to accelerate our journey on transformation for travel, right, and really bring to market the solution within a space of 6 to 8 months that would have normally taken us 2 to 3 years, because it's very hard to stop
Yeah.
everything when you're already selling. But
Right.
large part during the pandemic, we had to stop selling travel in a lot of markets, rightfully so. And we were focused on helping our customers refunding premiums where they had not used. But we also took the time to look at our transformation journey, which we have been on for last 2 years for travel, and see, was there anything we could have done differently, given this opportunity. We looked at pandemic as an opportunity to actually transform ourselves even faster and quicker, to really make sure that when, as we are getting out of the pandemic, that the value proposition we put in the market is something that is really fit to the needs of the customer, right? And this is where recently we have launched in Europe our new travel platform. It's called Allys, ALLYS, and
Right.
the whole idea of this Alice platform is to create a travel activist platform, which is really focused at providing a peace of mind to a traveler end to end, right? And usually the insurance model is all about, you buy a product from me as an insurer, right? And then as after you buy a product, I give you access to some services, right? After that, right?
Right.
Here we have turned the model completely upside down, where we have said you actually don't need to be our customer. You just go on alice.com, right?
Hmm.
And you can sign up, right? You can sign up like you sign up anywhere, right? Once you sign up, you get an access to a bunch of what we call it as premium, or premium products that you can actually get without paying anything. That includes like digital symptom checker, right? Nowadays everybody is worried about, whether if I get on, if I'm going to see somebody, whether I'm feeling well or not, and things like that, right? And if you think that you're not feeling well, you're not sure, is it COVID, is it something else? So we have actually launched a digital symptom checker, where you can answer a series of simple questions, and it gives you at least an initial diagnostic based on an AI engine to say what kind of ailment you might have, right? And then it also gives you a guide whether you should be talking to a nurse, or whether you should be talking to a GP or a doctor or not. So rather than charging for it, on this Alice platform, which is a travel activist platform, we have actually provided this as a free service to anybody who signs up. You don't need to be my customer. You don't need to buy a product. You just need to sign up. You get access to this.
Right.
Similarly, another big concern for a traveler is security alerts. When you are traveling, you're not sure what is going around, what is going on in a particular location you are in, right? And therefore, if you sign up on Alice, you get instant security alerts, right? Depending on your geolocation, we use geotagging, And then we would route security alerts. If there is anything that happens which is untoward, then you get a security alert on your mobile phones to say, this is what has happened, and maybe these are the actions you should be taking, right, in order to protect yourself, right? So that's another example. Third, we have tied up with a third party provider in Europe, and this is very unique to Europe, where we help customer get fair compensation from the airlines if your flights are delayed. So under the European Union rules, every traveler is entitled to certain amount of compensation for flight delays, flight cancellations, so on and so forth. Now these things are not very well known by all the customers, right? So what we have done is we have actually partnered with this law firm, which is a digital, and we are talking about RegTech here. This is a digitally enabled legal assistance provider in Europe, where their only business model is helping customer get fair compensation from the airlines, right? And again, you don't need to buy a travel product from Allianz, but because you are a member of this Alice community that we have created, right, you get access to all of these free services, right? And our idea here is, if a customer or if an individual really loves the service we are providing and this is meaningful for them, it will create a strong affinity for that individual with the Allianz brand, which ultimately should translate into business. When they have a need for insurance, they will always think about Allianz before any other brand.
Absolutely. Of course, I mean, it's time for us to check out the Alice platform to check out what's on store for us viewers. And also, you have touched upon the parametric part with Allianz initiatives. I mean, of course, there's absolutely fantastic things coming up. I mean, some are, wide mentioned in platforms online, and some are not, but initiatives are happening. So fantastic times ahead. Vinay, just a quick last question for you, and due to the interest of time, how Asia Pacific is actually moving ahead with a high number of rapidly growing middle class populations, and the uh, a huge amount of economic growth that's expected by 2030. uh, could you share some of Allianz Partners' unique positioning of insurance with the respect of services, technology, and practices, especially in the APAC region?
Absolutely. So maybe let me start with health and wellness space, again, going through that ecosystem lens, right? So recently, we have launched what we call it as digital access to care solutions in 11 markets across APAC. And what digital access to care is basically looking at providing an end-to-end digital health solution for a customer who is a direct customer of ours, or providing the same to a partner, to an employer if they choose to provide that, or even to other areas, other areas being students and so on and so forth, right? So what digital access to care offers is, it is basically a 3 level of digital health assistance capability, right? It starts with AI enabled symptom checker. I talked about that as part of Alice. So we provide it is basically a platform agnostic solution, right? I'm sure everybody wants the customers to download app, but as a consumer myself, I'm tired of having 100 or 200 apps on my phone, and which I don't even know which one to go to when I need, right? So we were really looking at, how do we provide a solution that is accessible to a customer on a platform of their choice? This is where our digital access to care solution is platform agnostic. So basically, if you're on WhatsApp, you can actually access it on WhatsApp. If you're on WeChat, you can access it on WeChat. If you're online, you can access it online. So on any social media platform that you are on, right, or a chat platform you are on, you can access our digital access to care solution, right? And once you access that solution on a platform of your choice, you basically are provided with 3 level of care, right? The first is AI enabled symptom checker, where you go through a series of questions, and based on that, the AI algorithm which sits at the back gives you an assessment of what could be the potential problem and what could be the potential course of action, right? If it's a mild symptom of cold, then you might want to take a particular regimen, right, in terms of helping you with it. Versus if we think that it is a little more complicated, then it automatically seamlessly hands over the diagnostic which has already been done by the AI to our medical hotline. This is where we have got certified nurses who would then, who you can have a video call with, and they can help you further diagnose your problem and then decide on the course of the next action that you might have to take. And if after that assessment, if a need is felt that you actually need to talk to a specialist or a doctor, then again, there is a seamless handover from the medical hotline for a doctor chat. Now you're talking to a doctor, and then the doctor is basically, having an assessment of your medical condition and making a decision, right, where you want to, what is the best course of action that you need to be taking. And if
Right.
after that you need to have teleprescription, right, or you need telemedicine, then there is a seamless handover to apply to then the next solution where you can actually get a teleprescription, and then we top it off with providing medicine at home delivery to you, right? So if you want medicine and you click yes, then we can also deliver the medicine at home. And if you need nursing care or hospital care, then we also provide access through our preferred network for you to get the right level of care that is required in a medical facility. So it's an end-to-end digitally enabled, right, healthcare ecosystem that we have built, right? We have gone live in 11 markets. So by the end of this year, we should be live with the full capability in 12 markets in Asia, right? And it has been done in a record time from my perspective, from cradle to grave. I think we would have done this in 9 months' time.
Again, just fascinating. It's something beyond insurance that we are looking at all the time, and how we are innovating, at speed and pace and scale. I mean, that's fantastic. Thank you, Vinay, for all the great thoughts, shared today. And to all our viewers, who wants to connect with Vinay, he is available on LinkedIn. Do reach out to him for anything. A fantastic thought leader in the industry and shaping the industry, at a very large scale. And with that, again, thank you very much for all the fantastic discussions we had. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and it was truly an honor and a delight to have you as our guest, Vinay. And lastly, to wrap this up, thank you for listening and take care. Goodbye. Stay safe for now.
Thank you, Surya. Thanks for this opportunity. And I indeed look forward to having opportunities in the future to interact and share my thoughts. And if there are any questions, if anybody wants to reach out, as Surya mentioned, please feel free to reach out to me on my LinkedIn, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for the opportunity, and stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinay.